Topping today's news, the Prime Minister announces the introduction of a new minimum wage and plans for new healthcare services in the country. The opposition leader reacts to the Prime Minister's first national address. Immigration gives a breakdown of their repatriation efforts and the new Director of Education officially taking over. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News. It's a pleasure to have you joining us. As Prime Minister Davis outlined a number of initiatives his government has put in place to move the country forward, he made an announcement that Bahamians have been eagerly awaiting for months, and that is an increase in the national minimum wage. The Prime Minister made the announcement Tuesday evening in his first national address since assuming office.
During an inflation emergency, it's important to take the steps we can to improve affordability. Those are the words of Prime Minister Philip Davis leading up to his announcement of an increase in the national minimum wage in the country from $210 to $260 per week. The Prime Minister making that announcement last night in his first national address since taking office in September of 2021. As the Prime Minister spoke to the many crises that the country is facing post-Hurricane Dorian and the COVID-19 pandemic, he outlined measures that can begin to move the country forward and out of crisis. With that, Bahamians heard what they have been eagerly waiting to hear since the Prime Minister announced back in May of this year that funds for minimum wage increase had already been allotted for the first incremental increase. The last time there was an increase in minimum wage was back in 2015. Prime Minister Davis contends this increase is long overdue.
For minimum wage earners in the public service, the change will be retroactive going back to July of this year. For minimum wage earners in the private sector, the increase will begin in a little less than 3 months, in January of the coming year, allowing employers time to prepare for the increased expense. The higher minimum wage will benefit tens of thousands of Bahamians. Will the increase help? Yes, it will. It was long awaited, long overdue, and the extra money every week will make a difference.
Now, while the increase in minimum wage will benefit thousands of Bahamians, Prime Minister Davis acknowledges that this will not eliminate the hardship of trying to make ends meet in today's economy. However, he says it represents progress on the way to a livable wage.
The raise was negotiated by the National Tripartite Council, which includes the government and representatives from the private sector and unions. Our shared goal was to raise the minimum wage without having a negative impact on employment or job growth, and we believe that has been achieved.
To assist with the high cost of living amid inflation, a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, Prime Minister Davis says 38 new items will be subject to price controls in the country.
We are limiting the wholesale and retail markup of everyday items like diapers and food like chicken, eggs, bread, bananas, apples, oranges, broccoli, onions, and potatoes. These items are being added for at least a 6-month period, at which point we will review and evaluate the impact on businesses and consumers. We are also reducing the profit margin on price-controlled drugs, providing additional relief to Bahamians. During an inflation emergency, it's important to take the steps we can to improve affordability.
The Prime Minister contends that his administration is taking many different steps to provide relief, adding that nothing is more important to helping Bahamian families make ends meet than higher wages. For JCN News, I'm Lucy Bastian.
Thanks, Lucy, for that report. Added to relieving some of the economic burden with the rise in minimum wage, Prime Minister Philip Davis, in his national address on Tuesday, also spoke to his administration creating a new catastrophic health care fund, or a new catastrophic health care fund to help Bahamians with health care costs. The Prime Minister outlined plans to recruit and train more health care providers and upgrade infrastructure, including updates to government clinics and new hospital services.
We will break ground by the end of this year on a new $200 million hospital in Grand Bahama. And tonight, I'm announcing that we have made major progress on securing both the land and resources for a new hospital in New Providence. Our capital has long needed an additional hospital to keep up with expanding healthcare needs. These new state-of-the-art hospitals in Grand Bahama and New Providence will help Bahamian patients receive top-quality care and improve working conditions for our doctors, nurses, and hospital staff.
Back in September of 2021, Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Michael Dowell told reporters that the need for a new hospital is paramount, adding that his administration would be moving very rapidly to address the additional need, while at the same time doing the necessary renovations and improvements at current facilities. Leader of the official opposition, Michael Pintard, dissected Prime Minister Philip Davis's first national address made on Tuesday evening, and he has questions. In a press conference held in the minority room at the House of Assembly, Mr. Pintard first addressed the state of crime in the country, saying the Prime Minister was short on having a conversation as it relates to new initiatives set out by the PLP government to tackle crime in the country. The opposition leader says it is up to the government to ensure the public that they are in control of this crime situation. Prime Minister Davis, in his address, announced a number of projects that will be coming on stream. Mr. Pintard says the Prime Minister has to provide more details and explain when and how they will execute those plans. With Prime Minister Davis updating the Bahamians on what his administration is doing with regards to immigration during his national address, the Department of Immigration held a press conference giving Bahamians an update on their efforts in keeping illegal migrants at bay and repatriation for those who have been apprehended. Arkale Campbell has this report on how such exercises are continuing to be a great expense to the country.
There has been a noticeable increase of migrants from Cuba and Haiti in the past year, with a larger amount of irregular migrants coming from Jamaica, Ecuador, and the Dominican Republic, according to the Department of Immigration during their press conference updating Bahamians on their ongoing operations and activities. Speaking with reporters, Director of Immigration Keturah Ferguson gave the numbers breakdown on repatriation efforts.
The past year, there has been a notable increase of irregular migrants entering the Bahamas. The Department of Immigration has noticed the increase of irregular migrants, particularly from Haiti and Cuba. This is evident in our repatriation statistics for the period January to October 2022. For this period, the department repatriated approximately 2,804 persons to their homeland. Of this number, 1,992 were Haitians, 519 were Cubans. This compares to the statistics for the overall year 2020 and 2021, in which case there were 964 persons and 2,815 persons respectively repatriated.
Director of Immigration Ferguson says they've increased immigration presence in the Family Islands, to which the Department of Immigration launched Operation Expedition on Abaco and the surrounding keys, due to those areas containing the largest percentage of irregular migrants. According to the Immigration Director, of the 52 persons arrested and detained during this week's expedition, 24 persons are currently detained at the detention center, 13 persons were undocumented, thus have been charged and placed before the magistrate's court, where an order of deportation is anticipated. 2 persons' verification of nationality is ongoing, and 9 persons held for working outside the boundaries of their work permits.
Operation Expedition commenced from Friday the 7th of October to Monday the 10th of October, and was conducted in collaboration with our law enforcement partners the Royal Bahamas Police Force, and the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. During this weekend's exercise, a significant number of persons were detained, questioned, and subsequently released after the department was satisfied that they had legal status here in the Bahamas or outstanding immigration work permit fees were paid. Approximately $45,000 was collected in outstanding fees. At the end of the operation, 52 persons were arrested and detained. They were subsequently airlifted to New Providence, where investigation is being conducted. Based on the investigations, a number of these persons will be placed before the courts. As a matter of fact, some of the irregular migrants are presently being arraigned before the magistrate court as we speak.
As it relates to the financial aspect of repatriations, Director Ferguson says such operations are very costly to the Bahamas government and Bahamian people.
Cost approximately $400 per person for repatriation to Haiti and $305 per person to Cuba. To date, the government of the Bahamas has expended over $2.2 million on repatriation exercise. Airfare to and from Abaco, specific to this operation, was some $25,000. Accommodations was $25,480.80. This does not take into account food, ground transportation, and equipment. The delinquent fees collected will offset a minimal amount of this cost.
Director Ferguson says that the Immigration Department's mandate is to protect the country's borders and sovereignty, treating irregular migrants with dignity and respect in compliance with the Bahamas' international obligations. However, reiterates that her department is committed, quote, to keep the Bahamas for Bahamians. The immigration director ended her address by encouraging persons with any information on irregular migrants or human trafficking to contact the Department of Immigration via phone or email. For JCN News, I'm Cale Campbell.
Thanks for that report, Cale. The Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training officially introduced its new Director of Education on Tuesday at the Office of the Prime Minister. The appointment of Mrs. Dominique McCartney Russell, a former educator and district superintendent for Abaco, comes on 1 week after it was announced that former Director Marcellus Taylor would demit office on Monday, October 10th. While expressing her sentiments, Mrs. McCartney Russell says she will continue the ministry's goal and fight for the education of children throughout the country.
I am really excited to serve as the Chief Technical Advisor to the Minister and also to be the manager of the public education system in the Bahamas. I believe that all children can learn. I think our goal as a nation is to ensure that our children can take care of themselves and contribute positively to our developing nation. I am excited to work with my team. I have worked in Abaco, Andros, Grand Bahama, and New Providence, and I'm a firm believer that every single child has a right to an education, whether they are in New Providence or they are in Acklands. And I have been a fighter for our children because I want at the end of the day that they're able to take care of themselves.
As the new director, another of her goals is to address the current teacher shortage within the schools, especially on the Family Islands, particularly on Abaco.
We've had a number of issues in Abaco related to staff shortage, and I've felt so supported by this administration. We were able to put 30 teachers in Abaco. We do still have a shortage, but what we've done is we have put those, the shortages, we have them in the virtual school, but we are agitating for teachers, those remaining teachers who are awaiting their geographical funds. We are waiting them to be posted to Abaco. But like I said, we would have gotten some support in that area.
Mrs. McCartney Russell says another challenge that she intends to tackle is the learning loss due to the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as in-school violence.
Our children, some of them have been out of school for 3 years, as was said, and we want to ensure that their recovery is accelerated. And we're also concerned, like the minister spoke about, school violence. We're looking at restorative practices, programs such as clubs and youth organizations, those things that allow our children to collaborate, that allow our children to connect with one another, and perhaps be able to resolve conflicts a little bit better. They've been out of school, and so we want to make sure that they're able now to socialize even as they learn.
We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.
Now, I know I've said it before, but this time, I swear it's different. Grammy dreamed about this number, so I won't lose. I can't lose. This is my last time. Please, son, just give me one more chance. I'll give it all back to you.
Excessive gaming affects more than just the gamer. This message has been brought to you by the Gaming Board for the Bahamas, which encourages you to game responsibly.
Marlin Marine and Generac have the standby generator that fits your needs. Conserve power by using only 1 or 2 circuits during an outage with our 7.5 kilowatt. Or manage your power usage with our 10 to 16 kilowatt standby. But why only power part of the house? Get whole house protection with our 20 kilowatt Generac standby and never lose power again. Give us a call at 393-7873 and get the right unit for you. Marlin Marine, giving you power on land and sea.
Kids, let's go! Sean, what are you doing?
I solved it. We'll buy our life insurance policy from this company and then go over here and get our home insurance. Then get our motor policy from right over here.
Or we could just get it all with SEG Atlantic. Save a lot of money and effort.
They do it all? Even pensions?
Even pensions.
We're like a husband that doesn't overcomplicate everything. SEG Atlantic. Good like that.